Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. A few weeks ago, my nephew heard me singing Ini Kamoze's Hotstepper while in the bathroom, and when I got out, the first thing he asked me was, "Yo uncle, I didn't know you knew that song from Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2. I laughed for a bit before giving that lad a 5-minute lecture about my relationship with that banger. It's been almost 30 years since that classic tore up the world charts and made Ini Kamoze a household name. If you were around in 1994, you can definitely relate and understand how massive that song was. Many non-reggae fans at that time didn't know that Ini Kamoze just wasn't a new artist, but was actually a veteran in the reggae scene who'd already notched 10 years in the game. He emerged from extremely tough beginnings and paid his dues before bursting onto the scene at the start of the 1980s and collaborated with the likes of Sly and Robbie. He was known to take no nonsense from record industry people, and it was said that it would affect his ability to achieve global mainstream success early on in his career, and he would drop out of sight, seemingly a forgotten has-been for a long while. But in the eternal words of Sizzla Kalonji, you can't keep a good man down. The early 1990s would see him make a sensational comeback with an irresistible smash hit that saw him become the focus of a bidding war for his signature by the same record labels that had supposedly ignored him early on in his career. Let's take a look at the story of Ini Kamoze and his journey to becoming the man we know as the Hotstepper. He was born Cecil Campbell on October the 9th, 1957, in the sleepy, quiet fishing village of Orakabessa in St. Mary Parish of Jamaica, to a tough police father and a factory worker mother. His father was quite a rolling stone, with lots of women all over Jamaica, and basically ignored young Cecil and his mother. So his mom, in a fit of anger, took baby Cecil to Kingston, placed him in a cardboard box, and left him at the gate of one of his father's main girlfriends in the then top ghetto called Jonestown, and that lady took him in as her own son. But later on, young Cecil was sent to stay with his grandfather in the southern parish of St. Elizabeth. He was a brilliant student with excellent grades, and his family members had high hopes of him becoming a doctor someday. But the kid had other plans and a very stubborn streak. He dropped out of school by the age of 15 and would hitchhike his way back to Kingston and began to hustle with the rude boys in the rugged Bond Street neighborhood. It was in those times that he fell in love with music. He would often hang out at popular producer Duke Reid's Treasure Isle Studios and saw music being created by young producers like Mikey Dread. The lifespan of rude boys in that area was usually very short. If the streets didn't get them, the cops definitely would. And one day, young Cecil and two of his friends were hanging out on a street corner when a police jeep pulled up suddenly and an armed cop jumped out and asked young Cecil where he lived. At the time, the place he called home was a small shelter on the roof of a shop right there on Bond Street. But quick thinking made him point at a nearby house and say it was his. And that saved his life, as the cop told him to run away and not look back. And as he took off running, he heard the sound of gunfire booming behind him as the cops shot his two friends on the spot. And terrified by that incident, he moved to Spanish Town, which wasn't better. And while Bond Street had a violence crime problem, Spanish Town had a political violence problem. And he quickly made friends with the youth in that area. Around 1976, that was the peak of Jamaica's political wars, and was definitely headed for destruction when he discovered the Rastafarian way of life and abandoned the streets for good. He would embrace his artistic flair and got friendly with a journalist who would take him daily to Radio Jamaica where he worked. And now a Rasta, he would go by the name Ini Kamoze, that means Mountain of the True God. And in those times, he became an aspiring playwright and even wrote a radio comedy show called The Runnings, and also wrote a history book. But the icing on the cake was him discovering his singing and songwriting skills. He became friendly with reggae legend Jimmy Cliff and would go to Jimmy's home every Friday evening to hang out. He had released a couple of songs, but they weren't going anywhere, and he would air his frustrations to his pal in Jimmy Cliff's nephew named Newton Merritt, and signaled his intention to quit music. After listening to Kamoze's demo tape and really feeling the tracks, Newton Merritt took that tape to none other than Sly Dunbar, who was blown away at what he heard. Sly sent for Ini Kamoze, and together with Sly and Robbie, they recorded the 6 tracks at Channel 1 Studios in just 1 hour. They would take him under their wing, and the result of that incredible session became his debut self-titled album, Ini Kamoze, that would hit the streets in 1984 under Sly and Robbie's Taxi record label and was distributed by Island Records. And the album became a smash hit, with the Rhythm Twins pouring indigenous energy into his projects. His next 2 albums, Statement and Pirates, also made a big splash with tracks like Call the Police and Gunshots. But deep down, he wasn't happy with the direction that his music was going. Those times were when the traditional analog sound was giving way to digital tools that produced an electronic synthesizer-based feel. Apparently, Island Records had been in support of all its artists moving with the times, and they would get Sly and Robbie to infuse that sound into all their artists' music. And this was evident in Black Uhuru's music in albums like Chill Out, very different from the sound on the earlier albums like Red. Ini Kamoze was dead set against this direction but would go along with it. But after touring with Sly and Robbie on their 1986 Taxi Connection tour with Yellow Man and Half Pint, he would end their collaboration and began to partner with Bob Marley's keyboardist Tyrone Downey. The pair would put out an immensely popular album titled Shocking Out in 1988. And that album featured the hit single titled Hole in the Pumpkin, a politically charged track that was banned on TV and radio in Jamaica and even had angry political thugs waiting for him at his house. And he would go on to collaborate with Exterminator Records that was owned by legendary producer Philip Fatis Burrell. And that arrangement would have him score some solid hits in Jamaica. But unlike other artists under Exterminator, his music was being ignored by global record labels. And one of the tracks that he would record in those times was a song called Hotstepper. He had been in music for almost 10 years, but had very little to show for it. It's said that he became frustrated and would go underground, dropping out of sight in 1991. He relocated to New York and settled in Brooklyn and became a regular sight around Flatbush Avenue, which boasted of a strong Jamaican immigrant population. It was in those difficult days that he became friendly with a 19-year-old upcoming producer in Queens named Salam Remy, and the pair would do a few songs together without success for 3 frustrating years of grinding. And in those times, Salam would remix and remaster the song Hotstepper. However, a fortuitous turn of events would change Ini Kamoze's story overnight. In 1994, a Jamaican-born lady called Maxine Stowe, who incidentally was the wife of reggae dancehall legend Sugar Minot and the niece of the great Coxsone Dodd, was the vice president at Columbia Records in New York. She was putting songs together for a dancehall compilation CD, but at the last minute, an issue would force her to take out a previously selected song, and as Jah would have it, Here Comes the Hotstepper was chosen to replace it. At first, it caught almost no attention until Salam took that single to popular radio DJs Funkmaster Flex and Angie Martinez of New York's Hot 97 FM. And with minimal airplay, it lit up the airwaves almost immediately around America, and the single simply flew up the charts. It forced Columbia Records to quickly release it as a single, and the rest is history. And Here Comes the Hotstepper will spend 30 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, with 2 weeks at number 1. It also hit the top 10 in Australia, Belgium, Denmark, France, Norway, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland. It went platinum in the US before the end of 1994 and was a worldwide smash hit on dance floors everywhere. And it wasn't just a musical sensation. The term Hotstepper became a trend in popular culture. It was the coolest thing I had ever heard, and its immense popularity got it included as part of the soundtrack of the 1995 movie named Ready to Wear. And like many people, I only watched that movie because of the song, and its success sparked heavy interest from several giant record labels. Columbia Records were the first to offer a deal, but during negotiations, the label's then president, named Tommy Motola, stirred Ini Kamoze's wrath when during a meeting, after seeing the artist's terms, rudely asked, "Just who does this guy think he is? Bob Marley?" Kamoze responded, "Y'all kill Bob Marley, but you can't try that with me." Eventually, he signed a deal with Elektra Records and released the album Lyrical Gangster in 1995. And Here Comes the Hotstepper has since become a cultural landmark in the 3 decades since its release. It's been in movies, TV shows, adverts, and video games, and has been covered by other artists over the years. Ini Kamoze has released music and albums back to back since then, but Hotstepper is undoubtedly his cash cow and biggest hit, and is said to be living really well off that song's royalties. He's come a long way, from sleeping rough on rooftops in Kingston's ghettos to enjoying semi-retirement as the senior statesman of reggae and dancehall, and the artist that we will always remember as the one who embodies and gave the whole meaning to the term Hotstepper. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.